Hi, thank you for joining Movie Geeks United. Tonight, we're taping this special hours after we just heard that actor James Gandolfini has passed away at the age of 51 from an apparent heart attack in Italy. Of course, Mr. Gandolfini is best known for his work on HBO show The Sopranos, where he played the lead character, probably one of the most, if not the most memorable character in the history of television. Man, this is hard to
it's hard to digest.
Believe.
It's so 51. That is incredibly young. It's just weird. Just watched him in 3 movies in the last less than 6 months. Not Fade Away, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, and Zero Dark 30. And he's getting a lot of work. And it's just I can't wrap my head around how young and how sudden it is.
Well, I actually just went to bed and just had a little cry about it. It's so weird, with Gandolfini, even though he had been he had been doing movies, for a little while before he got the role with Tony Soprano, and that show debuted in '99. So, but it really seems like we just didn't have we just didn't have enough time with him. If you think about it, he really didn't even get famous until or come into our worldview really until 1999. Before then, he had some plum roles, specifically particularly in True Romance.
Mm-hmm.
But he really wasn't on our radar. So it really felt like he was kind of just pulled from obscurity in a way when he got the Sopranos role, and so. And then, we were immediately clued in to just how great he really was, just this diamond that you just never noticed, with that show going on, in shooting for, almost a decade, and then now it's finally over, you thought, okay, well now we're going to start seeing Gandolfini in a lot of really good roles, and it's weird. He's great in everything he's in, but movie wise, he just never got that really, really great role. It really just feels like something's been stolen from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't, but he did. What he got the role. Let's be honest. Tony Soprano is a role of a lifetime.
Oh yeah, no.
That is the role. And the funny thing is, you can't, because of his death, you really can't do. You could never now do a movie or anything. You couldn't do any further kind of exploration because without Tony Soprano, you have nothing. Without Gandolfini, you don't. That's not to take credit away from everyone else, but he was the power behind the show, his character. And there's no one who can really play that part. He was sort of born to play that part.
Well, it's not even a question. That would. I don't know what was in David Chase's mind, whether he was, cooking up something or anything like that.
He might have been.
It's definitely.
But it's dead now.
Off the board now.
It's gone. You can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a Sopranos movie would have happened no matter what. But he with the Sopranos, he was able to create this character over a period of many years that David Chase wrote in a very complicated fashion. There's a very stereotypical way to play somebody connected, somebody involved in organized crime.
Right.
And he brought that toughness to it and that imposing weight he had to it. But at the same time, when you saw Gandolfini, and I think this is what made Tony Soprano work so well, when you saw him in pretty much any performance, you knew that he was one of us. There was such a kind of working class, blue collar quality about him. Relatable.
Which is what he was. I mean, he was a bartender and a nightclub guy, for years before he really burst onto the scene.
Right.
So, I mean, so he really was, in a lot of ways, very working class, and he remained pretty shy too. I mean, he's not somebody who really liked. I mean, he was always kind to reporters, I think, but I don't think he really liked the spotlight on him very much. And in 2002, I happened to be in New York and staying close to Little Italy, and went around the corner and saw that there was a film company shooting. I thought, oh my God, what could this be? I thought, it can't be what I think it might be, could it? And it indeed was. It was, I turned around the corner and saw Gandolfini and Frank Vincent and Vincent Curatello. I think that's the guy's name who played Johnny Sack. And I said, oh my God, they're shooting The Sopranos there. And I only sat there for about 5 minutes, and then they called it a wrap, And he started gathering up and getting ready to leave, So for him, leaving was just walking down the street. I suppose, he was living in the village, I think, and so for him, it was just a walk home for him, and suddenly, he was surrounded by fans, and he was stopping, taking photos with fans, and he stopped to pet a dog and talked to a local business owner there and stuff like that. I shook his hand. He had just negotiated for a higher salary, so I guess he was getting like $1 million an episode or something like that, and I went up and shook his hand. He's got a big, he's a big guy, not just big in the tummy, but big guy. So I shook his hand and said, Mr. Gandolfini, you did a good job in renegotiating that thing because you deserve it. You're the best thing on TV. He said, thank you very much. And
he's got one more movie that's left to come out. It's called Animal Rescue. It's based on a Dennis Lehane screenplay, and it's got Thomas Hardy in it. And then he did a pilot that he sold to HBO to make into a series. So I don't know if we'll ever see that pilot.
He's also got one more thing. That's Nicole Hollister movie.
That hasn't come out yet. But the Animal Rescue is his last film. Like, it's the last film he shot.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. There's that other movie. What's the title of it?
It's just untitled Nicole Hollister
movie. Yeah, it's untitled right now. It's got Catherine Keener as usual with her, and also. Who's Elaine on The Sopranos on Seinfeld? What's her name?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in it as well. So we've still got a couple more things, but yeah, I read about that HBO series, and I was excited about that.
And the last movie that he did that came out in theaters was Burt Wonderstone. While I don't think that's a very good movie.
No.
I thought he was good in it. I liked seeing him in a comedy.
It's just good to see him. I mean, we like to see him, and I mean, I wouldn't, he was really great as the father and not Fade Away. He really walked away with Zero Dark 30. I thought the scenes that he's in are actually, some of the most powerful scenes in the whole movie, or at least.
And it is a jolt. Because when I first saw Zero Dark 30, I had no idea he was in it.
Yeah.
So it is a jolt when he first comes on screen, because you've been watching the movie for about a good hour and a half or whatever it was, and then Gandolfini pops up, and you're like, oh gosh, he's in this. That's so wonderful. You know, he was always a welcome presence.
He's pathetic, in a pathetic quality in Killing Them Softly. You know, his character in that is, I mean, it's a perform. You know, it's a, you know, because you're watching. You know, we're so used to watching Tony Soprano, and then you see this really pathetic, aging hitman in Killing Them Softly, and let's not forget something like Where the Wild Things Are, where he was so sweet.
Yeah.
And innocent, really, in that.
David Chase made mention of his sad eyes that made him one of the great actors.
Yeah. Which he
I tell you what,
really he really uses his eyes really well as Tony Soprano. I mean, that's his, you know, that's his biggest feature in a lot of ways.
Right.
You know, he could let you know what the character was thinking without saying a word. With just a shift of his eyes moving from one place to another place.
I remember, I mean, like Dean said, we all remember probably the first time that we really noticed him being True Romance. But I also really liked him in a film that came out not very long after that, which was Night Falls on Manhattan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Sidney Lumet movie. And again, another role and movie that called upon his special quality that he is just a guy in your neighborhood, you know, like a neighborhood guy. Yeah, I mean, authentic he was. And then Rod Laurie gave him a chance to play something quite different in The Last Castle, where he played opposite one of his icons, Robert Redford, as this kind of really buttoned-up, straight-laced military man. That was a very different change of pace for him. I contacted Rod Laurie tonight and invited him on any time to talk about Gandolfini.
I always remember him too in a movie that I didn't really care for. He was the best thing about it was The Mexican.
Yeah.
With Brad Pitt, where he was playing the gay hitman. Yeah. Which was a very, very unusual role and maybe one of my favorite film performances by him.
Yeah, he was. He helped that out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one thing about that particular film, even though it had Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts in it, that was incredibly memorable. I also, you know, went back not too long ago and checked out William Friedkin's version of 12 Angry Men, and he's jury number 6 in that. And that's a pretty incredible cast, and not a bad remake either. I mean, a very, very respectful remake of something that's you know of a work that, you know, the original film version, if not the original TV version, has become, you know, incredibly.
Friedkin wrote about him Friedkin wrote about Gandolfini in his new autobiography, and he said while they were shooting 12 Angry Men, Gandolfini was like off in the corner. He was pacing, and he was really, really nervous. And Friedkin said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I'm just so nervous. I'm working with Jack Lemmon." And he said, "Do you think I'm doing okay?" And Friedkin says, "Yeah, you're going to be a major star, and people eventually one day will say that about you, that they can't believe they're working with you." And Friedkin says in the book that, you know, he didn't know if he was right or not, but then The Sopranos hit, and he knew that, you know, that was a reality for Gandolfini. He was he was always a great working character actor, but The Sopranos put him on the other side.
Right.
And I don't think he felt entirely comfortable with that because he was so incredibly shy. But obviously it led to great opportunity. But even before The Sopranos, he was working with terrific filmmakers. Tony Scott he worked with many times. And, of course, as we mentioned, Lumet and Friedkin. So he
did Crimson Tide. He was in Crimson Tide, remember? That was a big deal. And I'm glad you brought up Night Falls on Manhattan because it's such an underrated movie. And he was
we have a phone call. 515 area code. I'm going to pick it up now. Hi, 515 area code.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad.
I just wanted to quick point out that he was great in True Romance by Tony Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie, and I thought he was really great in it. And I thought he was actually pretty scary. I saw it when I was pretty young. I shouldn't have been watching it, but he terrified me actually in that.
Yeah, it's a terrifying scene and an impossible scene as well. And he talked about many times the difficulty he had with that, because not only is it extremely violent, but it's violence against women, and that was something he was really uncomfortable portraying.
Yeah.
But he went all the way with it. There's only one way to do that.
My favorite moment in that scene, though, is where the violence stops, and he actually stops and says, "You're a really great girl," and everything. He says that. Yeah. He kind of breaks that tension and says, "Well, I have a lot of respect for you. You're really fighting."
I think he kind of stood there, and I think he really did for a moment, just be like, "Wow, this girl is great, but I'm going to do this anyway." And it gave me the chills. I don't know.
Well, I really appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts, and thank you so much for it.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my friend. Bye-bye.
What you really see in that scene is really just sort of the weird combination that you would see a lot of in The Sopranos, of being being a killer, and also being somebody with a really big heart. So you get both of those things.
Well, that was the great paradox, or I guess the great conflict for him, was he has these two families, and doesn't really ever, you never get the feeling he never knows how to really reconcile. He never really knows how to reconcile either one of them. I mean, actually going to a shrink, which was probably one of the greatest touches on that show, and also one of the greatest relationships was his relationship with Lorraine Bracco. That was a fascinating dynamic, and kudos to both of them for being able to pull that off. And you never knew where that was going to go in some episodes. And this is, you're always hoping that one employee, the episode, I guess, Employee of the Month, where she's raped, right? She's not just she's raped. You were always hoping that there would be a follow-up, that he would go, because but they never did that, though. Or maybe he might have done it, but he's never talked about. But he had as the thing went on, as much as they would fight and everything, I think that was really might be the great relationship in the show.
Well, it's definitely the relationship that sort of defines the show in a lot of ways, because really the show is really about a guy who's going to get help, but does not realize it yet that he's not going to be able to get the help that he wants, because he either, he can't tell the truth about himself,
right,
and if he can't tell the truth about himself to his therapist, then he's not really going to get any further than he is right there. I mean, the entire show is really about lying. That's. I mean, it's not just about Tony Soprano lying to his therapist, but there's just a series of lies that go back and forth between he and Chris and I mean, everybody in that show is lying either to themselves or to other people, or being people that they really aren't, in order to get further up the ladder or to get more money or whatever, and then you get into the guy that comes out of the closet and has to go on the lam.
My God,
that's a huge lie. I mean, the whole show is about that's the through line that's running through it. Yeah. I saw James Gandolfini one more time. I should say this on the show. I saw him one more time. I had just come out of going to see Anne Hathaway in 12th Night in the park, and I just found myself in the village for some reason, and heading home, and it was a big rainstorm, and there I was on 6th Avenue or whatever, and I looked behind me and saw Gandolfini hailing down a cab for a bunch of old ladies who were weighed down with all these bags and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they couldn't get a cab, but once Gandolfini steps out and hails the cab, you know a cab is going to stop. And sure enough, a cab stopped, and they got in, and he stopped to take a picture with them and everything. And I just stood there and looked, and I thought about going up to him, but I said, no, I know that he doesn't want to be bothered, so I didn't. But I just saw him get the cab and take some pictures with people, and then cross the street, and then I guess back home for him, But I thought, wow, what a great guy.
So, do you have a favorite episode with Gandolfini in Sopranos?
The one I really like is, I think it's the second to last or the last one of the first season, where he gets even. People are trying to get him, and he gets even with a lot of people. I love that one. There's another one. The Employee of the Month one I liked a lot too. But I think the best one, and I think you brought this up, is the one where he takes Meadow for the college, and that is the that is the shining example. That really is the best episode. The duality and everything in that episode. The lying, as you say, Dean, is on full display brilliantly in that episode.
There's also. Those scenes with Lorraine Bracco really allowed him to play every single color imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the best moments are the quietest moments, the moments when he realizes the legacy that he's leaving his children. Both the hopes he has for his children and the sadness about the position that he's put them in. Particularly his son.
Oh yeah, and that scene
who suffers from the same affliction as he does with the panic attack.
Mhm. Yeah, and that scene, was it the one where he's making fun of AJ for being fat and everything, and then at the end of that episode, remember, he shares a pizza with them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really nice touch.
One of my favorite episodes is from 2004. It's called Irregular Around the Margins.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it begins with Tony finding out that he has cancer, or small cancer on his forehead, and and then he starts hanging around Adriana's club a lot.
Right.
And he comes this close to making out with Adriana, and then they get in the car accident, and he has to deal with the aftermath with Chris finding out, and Chris suspecting that something was up, and he has to lie his way out of it, really.
Right.
There's just all sorts of crazy lies going on in that show, you know?
Also, not to be overlooked, is the work he did for veterans. He did HBO documentaries on veterans of various wars, including the most recent conflicts. And so he obviously had a very soft spot in his heart for them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one. I did watch one of them. I think he made two of them, and I did watch one of them. And he was off camera asking questions. He was part of the documentary, and you saw the way he related to them, and how giving and understanding and compassionate he was of them. And that, if you were to recommend a couple of essential Gandolfini performances, which ones would they be for our listeners?
Well, I guess I've already said a few of them. I mean, definitely. But I'm just keeping myself to the movies now because, of course, Tony Soprano, obviously, but the Mexican for sure.
Mm-hmm.
True Romance.
Definitely True Romance. In the Loop.
Maybe In the Loop,
Yeah, I would definitely put In the Loop in there, and I would have to put Where the Wild Things Are, and I would put The Man Who Wasn't There.
Yeah.
As well as Night Falls on Manhattan.
And even Welcome to the Rileys.
Yeah,
that was good too.